welcome. Thank you for joining me in this journey on the cloud, because I don't know what your experience is, but my experience is I don't know what I'm doing. And so the whole reason for doing this, I just had some questions. And so I'm continuing to look for the answers, and I think we'll all continue to look for the answers. Because it's one of those emergent technologies that affects us all whether we want to or not. And I've talked with a lot of the owls, you know what I'm saying, and they say, oh, I don't need that because I'm not on the cloud. And I said, oh, yes, that's why you should come. But many of the owls, you know, as it says, older, wiser. So they've solved it for them, but I need some help. So there are a couple of lingering logistical issues. I'll check on internet, see what you may or may not be aware, but last week they had a lightning strike, and it disabled a lot of the stuff. So I don't know where they said everything was back to normal, but I don't know. So we'll check on it. Secondly, I'll check Bob to turn the air on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So our presenter today is Ed Teune, and he is a member of Good Shepherd, and this is what he works in, the cloud technology. So today is an effort to listen to his perspective to help us in the decisions that we make and how we manage our own use of data and internet, whatever, whether it's photos or whatever. This will be interactive. Ask questions. Fred Harms is here taking video of it. We'll make it available for you if you need to listen to it again and learn from it. So we'll try to make that available to you all as anybody else who might be interested in having this information.
Will it be stored in the cloud too?
Of course, of course. The Good Shepherd cloud.
Yes, on cloud 9. Let's open with a short word of prayer and then we'll begin. Father, thank you for this beautiful day that you have given to us. I ask your blessing upon our time together. Help us understand your world more fully. Help us to utilize it. We thank you for Ed and his participation in this church and his ministry here, and for his sharing this information with us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Ed, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, my name's Ed Teune. So the cloud, now that I've got more and more questions, I kind of understand specifically what a lot of you are looking for, but it's a really big topic, and I'm trying to cram the whole topic into 1 hour. But we're going to have a repeat session this evening, and I'm sure we could do follow-up sessions anytime. I'd certainly be willing to do that, to dive into specific, iCloud or the Google Cloud that Android phones connect to, all that kind of stuff as well. I've got a little bit of that, but what I'm going to go over now is, what is the cloud? What does it mean for you? And I put the little subtitle there, Learn to Navigate Now. And the reason is everything is going to the cloud. So the big technology companies behind this idea of the cloud, and the technology companies that run everything from your Mac to your iPhone to your Android-based phone, they're all pushing everything to the cloud. So pretty soon we really won't have much of a choice. You're gonna have to interact with the cloud one way or another. It's just the way they're going. And there's technology and economic reasons why that's happening, and we could kind of get into that if you're interested, but I'm just letting you know now, that's the way everything's going, right? cloud isn't the future. Cloud is already the present, right? It's present technology. It's in everything we touch. So what is the cloud? Why did it develop? Where did it come from? I love the history of technology. I've been in technology most of my career. So I find that fascinating, but if I get into too many rabbit holes, just say, Ed, move along. Not so interesting. The companies behind the cloud is very important, right? To understand what the companies are, what their motivations, what their drivers are, whether they have your interests in mind or not, just a teaser, no, they don't. They don't have your interests in mind. Why should you use it? But they do offer good services. They do have to, they do compete with each other. So there are some positive things there. Why should you use it, and do you have a choice? Again, kind of the short answer is, unless you're going to be the Unabomber off in the woods, completely off the grid, you're probably going to have to interact with the cloud one way or another. So, and is it safe? And more importantly, how can I make it safer? So there's a lot of concern about safety, right? And there are things we can do, and I'll repeat it later again. One of the most important things you can do about safety of your data. Someone give me some answers. What do you think? What's that?
Back it up.
Backup? I work for a cloud backup company. I love that answer. What else?
Back it up multiple places,
Back it up multiple places, yeah.
including on an external hard drive.
Yeah.
How do you
Good.
back it up from your phone?
You save to,
I'm sorry?
save as or save.
Well, we'll get into quite like what's one of the main things you can do about your data safety? Okay.
I didn't hear that. Over.
They're talking passwords, all that kind of stuff. You know what? One of the most important things you can do about data safety? Vote. Be aware of what candidates say about data safety. Do they cover it? Are they interested in it? Do they have your interest in mind? And then vote for those people, especially local candidates. So European governments are very, very strong about data safety, data sovereignty. United States, not so much. So it's an important thing if this is a concern of yours, to go to the polling stations and vote on. This is an important issue, all right? Because what's that?
Is it regulated state or local? Or
well, it's the companies, right? So it is kind of, there are local laws involved, but a lot of them are national kind of sovereignty laws as well. So it's an important issue to think about. And I think it's one of the roles government should have to control these big tech companies, right? Not just let them do whatever they want with our stuff. Anyway, yeah.
So basically what you're saying is this cloud is like a big safety deposit box for all of our stuff.
That's one of its roles, yeah.
Is it like a server product?
Yeah, so let's talk, you're jumping ahead here, that's perfect, right. So let me give my background real quick. Like about 40 years ago, I started out life as an English teacher. I lived in Asia for like 6 years, all right. And when I came back to this country, English teaching didn't pay that well, just teaching English. I worked at some universities and stuff. But there's a big tech boom, so I switched over to teaching people how to use computers, got into programming, and now for the last 12, 15 years, I've been a sales engineer working for some cloud companies to sell their cloud services, right? Currently, I work for Druva. Anyway, that's my background real quick. So what is a cloud, right? This is an old internet meme. What if I told you the cloud is just someone else's computer? Okay, this really heavy metal box here, this is the cloud, okay? This is, a little bit older, but this is a typical server that you would find in a rack, okay? You can kind of hear it spin up there. And as I turn the power on, this is heavy, this is physical, this is noisy, this consumes a ton of power and heat. There's millions, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of these all over the world in big physical data centers. That's where your stuff is, okay? It's just another computer. It's just maybe not on your computer or your device anymore, all right? So, not a real important server. It's old anyway, so.
Can they crash?
What's that?
Can they crash?
Yes, they can. They certainly can. But that's why these companies have invested billions of dollars into redundant servers, right? And fail-safes in terms of the hard drives. This is an older hard drive, if you guys never saw the inside of a hard drive before. This is one of the first hard drives ever invented. It doubles as a shield in battle, if you want. It's very heavy. They used to come in pairs with big metal heads that would read the data off there. But everything about the cloud is still just as physical as all this stuff, all right? So the cloud is in many ways no greener than if you had your own computer, because they still have to run diesel backup generators. They still consume tons and tons of power. So first of all, it's just someone else's computer. The second thing is it's the connectivity, how to connect to those computers, right? The internet. You guys have all heard of the internet, right? So it stands for internetwork. This was the first internet from government and universities, ARPANET, back in 1973. Very, very basic, but that's where it came from. And interestingly, a lot of this technology stuff started with university and government kind of programs. ARPANET was one of the prime examples. It grew to kind of cover more of the United States. This is, the network has obviously grown to cover the entire planet. This is the network of Facebook about 10 years ago, right? Doesn't cover large things like Russia and China very well because they have their own stuff. The other thing to remember is that the physicality of the cloud, these are all the undersea cables that connect to the different continents, right? This stuff is all physical. It's all, real things that your data flows across, okay? They lay these cables down, huge, big, fat cable with all kinds of armor and metal, just to get these little teeny tiny strands of glass that send light signals, right? Fiber optics. Have you heard of fiber optics? Yeah. So that's how your data moves from here to Europe or from here to anywhere, really, okay? And there's fiber optics in your neighborhood, right? It's under the sidewalk, yeah.
So not satellites.
Satellites, the problem with satellites is it has to go all the way up to the satellite and then come all the way down. This is much faster than satellites, right? They used to do satellites, they still do satellite, but for the main traffic of the internet, it's all physical cables. It's cables from anywhere all the way to your house, right? Yeah. Anyway, and it's also very large data centers with lots of hard drives, lots of servers, stacks and stacks. Has anyone been in a data center before? Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Is that big one out there by 88 off Eola?
Well, they're all over the place. And most of them are hiding in plain sight. It's just a big blank building with like no windows. But I used to work for CenturyLink and I used to go into the data center all the time. It has bulletproof walls, all kinds of security around it and all that kind of stuff. But they're all over the place, right? One of the largest kind of farms of data centers is out in Nevada, run by a company called Switch. These are a bunch of the diesel backup generators over here, right? Anyone know the R.R. Donnelley building?
Yes.
350 East Cermak. That is one of the largest single building data centers in the world. It's one of the major data centers in the Chicago area. Think about it, 3 foot, it used to be printing presses. So it's like a bomb shelter, right? It's perfect for a data center. I've been in there. CenturyLink has a big presence there as well. This is obviously an older picture, but the building looks almost exactly the same. I think it was built in 1912. These are some of the big diesel generators. Here's a diesel generator going into the window of 350 East Cermak, okay? So again, this is all very physical stuff, right? The cloud is not some kind of ethereal thing. It's other people's computers and big undersea cables, all that kind of stuff. So where'd it come from? So first, it started with just people saying, okay, I have a server like this in my office, in a rack somewhere, but it's a lot of heat, a lot of power, all this kind of stuff. I wish a company would have this server of mine and I could just connect to it, right? So it started with people hosting other computers. Then it went to things like websites, applications, and storage. They started expanding more and more services for it, right? But one of the big drivers is what you guys, it's already been going off these guys, right? So you want information on this device, but you don't have a whole lot of storage, right? So you need to use someone else's storage, someone else's application, someone else's services to connect, so you can use Google Maps or, you know, different iPhone services. So that's really where the cloud took off, is when these became more prominent, right? So it's your fault that there's the cloud, right? Because you started using these devices. Does that make sense? All right. So it's not just like servers and all that. It is servers. That's where the stuff all sits. But the reason it came about was primarily from different mobile devices. All right. So the companies behind the cloud, right? You guys know all these companies, right? Pretty familiar names: Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and Netflix. And I kind of paired them together because Google really became a big cloud company, primarily from the Android operating system. Does everyone know what the Android operating system is? Basically, if you don't have an iPhone, you have an Android-based phone. It's the system that your phone runs on. How many people have an Apple phone, an iPhone? How many people have not an iPhone? Not. Okay, interesting. So, worldwide, about 85% of all phones run the Android operating system, and only about 15% run Apple. Okay, and that's even, the disparity is growing even greater. But so Google, the Android operating system, but they also have lots of other cool features that anyone can use. Like, has anyone used Google Photos? To back up your photos, yeah. Okay. Amazon, what do you know Amazon for? Merchandise, shopping, right? So Amazon started very small, right? Jeff Bezos, or however you pronounce his name, but it grew very, very large very, very quickly. They had to build all kinds of computers and infrastructure and network to handle all that shopping, right? Does that make sense? So they had to build their own data centers just to handle all the shopping traffic and all the orders and everything. So what they started doing is they had to get so good at building these shopping services that now their main business is no longer shopping, okay? It's slowly being taken over by computer services that they offer to other companies. They built all this infrastructure and all this computing stuff and these cloud services that now they are the #1 cloud services for companies, for enterprises, for large enterprises in the world, right? They're way ahead of Microsoft and Google. The 3 for business services are Amazon, then Microsoft, and Google a distant third.
So AT&T and doesn't show up in this list at all? Or?
So AT&T is more networking, right? That's more network. This is the actual, you know, storage and compute and applications and services. So if you want to build an application in the cloud, or you want to build a service in the cloud, chances are you're going to go to Amazon, and they have all these different bits and pieces called microprocesses. So, you know, like database server or application server or web services or all these different things that you can piece together and develop. And they built that off of their experience of having to build all that stuff themselves for their shopping network. Okay? Now, but good question. The lines are starting to blur, right? So what do you know Netflix for example? Movies, right? You're just streaming movies, okay? So they have to store the movies somewhere, but they need to use people's networks like AT&T's network or Comcast's network, right? And that kind of there was some friction there, because Comcast was like, well, Netflix isn't really paying me for their network. How come they get to stream their stuff over my network? So then Netflix started building more and more local data centers closer to you so that your movies could get to you faster. So Netflix is starting to get into the data center business and those services business. You know what I mean? They're all kind of becoming similar to each other, right?
So Facebook, Microsoft, and Apple, they all have their data centers too?
Yes. So Apple, interestingly enough, Apple spends $360 million a year on Amazon services. So your stuff isn't with Apple, it's really with Amazon. Okay, they're starting to try to change that, right? They would like to have their own stuff, and they do have their own data centers, but they are one of the largest customers of Amazon Business Services, right? So your iCloud and everything is really built on Amazon under the covers. What's that? I don't know. I bet you, I'm sure. So most large enterprises, I deal with large companies. This is one of our biggest customers right away. I can't mention them by name, but that's one of our largest companies for cloud backup. They use us to back up all their laptops worldwide, right? Back up to our cloud. Our cloud is based on Amazon. Capital One, yeah. Any large enterprise, they're going to be dabbling in probably Amazon and Microsoft. They want that multi-cloud strategy,
So
back up to
really
more than
get
one
mad
place.
at When there's the breaches, that the people can go in on the servers.
No. Normally who you blame it on is Capital One.
Okay.
Because there's always, it's called a shared responsibility model. I build my service, my Capital One service on Amazon, let's say. There's built-in security on the infrastructure layer, like someone can't just walk into an Amazon data center, there's security around that, the physical server, all that stuff. But once you get up to a certain layer, you have to build security into your application. You use bits and pieces of Amazon and Microsoft, Capital One does, but if they don't do it correctly, it's Capital One's fault, not Amazon or Microsoft's fault. So when you hear about someone, oh, they hacked into an Amazon account, is probably the people who manage that account, not Amazon's fault. Amazon is kind of like, hey, we told you how to secure it and you didn't secure it correctly, right? So, how's everyone doing so far? Does it make sense? Is it?
Good.
Yeah, okay.
Recently, the U.S. military and the CIA talking about doing a cloud-based system. It sounds like they're dealing with Amazon, Microsoft, and maybe it's Google are bidding on that process.
Yeah, and there's
A new layer.
there's another layer. There's companies like mine. We have government agency. NASA uses our stuff. So there's the layer of there's NASA uses Druva, which is built on Amazon, right? So now the separate thing though is there is in Amazon, for example, just as an example, this is true of all the vendors. Amazon has certain data centers that are just for enterprise businesses. Then they have separate data centers that are for government customers. It's called GovCloud. So it's an extra layer of security, extra layer of everything. So we utilize, when we deal with NASA, NASA uses us and our stuff is sitting in the GovCloud data centers. So extra security there. All right. So yeah, it's a weird, complicated web of multiple levels of responsibility, right? If anything goes.
Dark web.
Oh, so the dark web is just an area where people hide illegal things, right? They're still sitting on a physical server somewhere, right? But they've probably, you know, from the bottom layer, they're probably in some kind of, you know, not so good data center in Eastern Europe somewhere, right? Probably not in your standard data center. They've got everything encrypted and secured so that you can't necessarily just get to it by browsing. When you open up Google, you can't just get to the dark web, right? It takes extra steps, which I will not provide now. So yeah, it's where people hide illegal activity. Some very, very horrible. So yeah, Apple and Microsoft compete a lot, right? So Apple, obviously iPhones, your Macs, there's all kinds of stuff built into an iPhone that uses things like the iCloud and all those services. And they're pushing that more and more. There's only so much you can store on your iPhone. You should back it up to the iCloud. And Apple is well known for good security. No company is perfect, and nothing is ever 100% completely secure, all right? Just know that about the cloud. It just isn't, right? There's always some risk involved. The idea is to minimize that risk to as small a risk as possible, right?
I
Yes.
have an iPhone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have iCloud, and I don't really know why I have it. It was not just on my phone, but I think I paid monthly for that. Is that, am I thinking correctly?
There's usually free versions and paid versions of most of these cloud services. I'm not as familiar with the Apple stuff.
Okay.
My daughter has an iPhone, but I've never owned one. So usually, so the thing is, and plus, let me highlight Microsoft here to kind of, in an indirect way, answer that question. So Microsoft now, I don't know, does anyone use Microsoft Office, like Word, Excel, stuff like that? That's all going to what now? Office 365, they call it, right? Exchange Online, and it's all online. You can still download it and install it, but they're pushing everyone to just, what's that?
They've been pushing that for a long time.
Right. They have, but it's getting more and more prevalent, right? So even large companies now are not using, they don't want an Exchange server anymore. They just use Microsoft servers, and everyone just connects via a web browser, right? So Exchange Online, and that's the same thing is happening with Apple. They don't want you with local storage, local things. They want you all using the cloud. And it's becoming easier because the internet connectivity is getting better and better, more widespread and faster.
Yeah. Is there any movement towards individual clouds? People buying their own clouds and using it for themselves?
Like a private cloud?
Yeah.
Private cloud has been around for a long time.
I know.
And so, yeah, there are companies that build their own private cloud.
Not companies, I'm talking about individuals. Like, you know,
Well, where is your cloud?
it's in your house someplace.
Well, yeah, that's just it's another name. It's the same. It gets back to the same thing.
Yeah,
It's just one of these,
You're
right? Right. They call it a cloud, but it's just a hard drive or multiple hard drives. If you really want a good home cloud, I would suggest getting a network attached storage device that has more than one hard drive, right? And configure it so that if one hard drive fails, the other data is still there. And I could go over, you probably know about that, but I could go over that if you want. Okay.
I was curious about the movement, because I haven't seen a lot of it, but I've seen some, like at Micro Center and some places like that, where they advertise a 3 terabyte cloud, home cloud.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it has multiple drives or not on it. So.
Yeah, it depends. And the multiple drive ones are more expensive, more for small businesses. It's the same thing as an external hard drive. They just call it a cloud. But there's always an option to do another backup to that company's. Like if you buy it from Seagate, Seagate's like, well, you could back it up to our cloud too, right?
All right.
So, but yeah, it's an external hard drive, basically. But that the whole complexity around that and whether you've got it configured right and everything, that's why the public cloud is of use and interesting, because then you don't have to mess with that anymore, right? You just back it up to Google's cloud or Apple's cloud or Microsoft's cloud, right? Facebook is, it's social media, but they've got so much stuff and they've got so many people that they have to have their own data centers to store all this stuff. To store your personal information so that they can sell it to the Russians. No, just kidding. Right? So that but all these companies, right? They're there to make money. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. Facebook has had a horrible year of very embarrassing problems where they were literally selling your personal information. Scrubbed, they say it's scrubbed. They try to scrub it so that someone can't identify you and steal your identity, but they were selling your data, And so they're, oh yeah, we're gonna work it, they're never gonna fix it. Facebook is never gonna fix it. Facebook is free. Did you pay for Facebook? No. So if someone's offering you a free service, there's a catch somewhere. They have to make money somewhere, otherwise they wouldn't be so huge. They wouldn't be around,
So
right?
they make money by selling our data?
Yeah,
Right.
advertising.
You sign your life away when you accept their terms and conditions.
Yeah.
that you almost
No
have.
one who reads the agreement that's 50 pages long, right? You just scroll through and okay. Because why are you on Facebook? I'm on Facebook. What's that?
I'm not.
I'm not. Okay, good for you. Are you on any social media?
Nope.
No.
Another
Okay.
time suck.
It is a time suck. I've got relatives in Asia, and we stay connected. We share pictures. We use a few different social media. One's Facebook. One's called Line. That's really popular in Asia. So you use it to connect, but there's risks involved, right? There's risks involved. But yeah, they're all, Netflix, you pay for that service, and it's movies. You're not really sharing your data necessarily, except your username and password and credit card number, right? So those are kind of the main companies behind the cloud. Let me dig into some of this stuff a little more. Google is big because these are Android-based phones worldwide, right? They're up around 85% of the market. So iOS is still very popular in the States and a lot of places. A lot of people like it. But if you look at all of the phones, all of the devices sold worldwide, Google is huge. And that's why people back up to the Google Cloud, because it comes tied to your phone. My contacts, I never lose my contacts. This phone gets destroyed, I pick up a new one, I log into my account, everything comes down like it was before. Same thing with Apple, right? So Android devices have it built in. Gmail is free email you can use. Gmail is probably the best free email out there. Okay, just to be honest with you, it's great, it's secure, it works really well. I use Google Photos. And here's that free and paid version. You can use Google Photos free, unlimited storage. But if you have really high resolution pictures, they're gonna make them a little bit smaller. Still acceptable for most printing and everything. But I have a decent couple cameras, so I pay $10 a month for like 2 terabytes. This is a typo in here. I keep the original resolution of the photos, and it's basically it's a searchable database of all the photos I've ever taken of my kids, and it uses facial recognition, so I can just search for my son. Or I say I want my son and my wife in a picture, and it just pulls them all up for me. So it works really well. So that's what Google is known for. Okay. Yeah.
Question on the photos, especially on the free service. Again, it's the fine print. What does that mean? And it seems to me that what I have experienced, what I've read, is that the information in my photos now become accessible for use by Google.
Yeah, it's funny wording in their old agreement. They've changed in the new agreement. It's better wording, but they don't really have access. But I could dig into that. I could pull up like the new agreement and stuff. But no, it's still it's your photos. It's your photos, right?
Right, but they're recognizing what it is. For example,
Well, they use their recognition engine to recognize what's in the photo. But they can't take that photo and use it for like advertising or something like that.
well,
That's where the nuance of the language is, from my understanding.
so I sent my son an email message from Boston this week.
Okay.
We were eating lobster. I took a picture of this lobster. It was good, by the way. And I sent it to my son and saying, hey, we're just, within minutes, he got a message saying, oh, are you interested in purchasing seafood?
Yeah, there's a couple places where that could have happened. What email were you using?
Google,
Gmail?
Gmail.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where that happened. I don't know what spot that happened. I don't know the inner
I'll
work.
look in a little bit more and send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. No, I mean, I browse stuff. I do shopping online, right? And then I'll hop over to Facebook, and all of a sudden advertisements will pop up on Facebook related to what I was just looking at.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all tie together. They do all tie together. So Amazon, we kind of already covered that. That's the market share, and everyone uses Amazon underneath. iCloud, iTunes, it's just for Apple devices. So it's really good. They're really good services, but you have to have an Apple device to use it, really. I mean, you can kind of use iTunes and stuff, but it's not as open as, say, Google search. Anyone can use Google stuff, right? So.
Yeah, I run iTunes on a PC. So.
Oh, okay, okay. There's, I like Spotify better. Right, so I use Spotify, but yeah, you could certainly run iTunes on other devices. Microsoft Office 365, so you can get 5 1 terabyte accounts for $10 with your Office 365 account as well. I mean, everyone offers those types of services. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, we got plenty of time. Okay. So why should you use the cloud? Because everything is moving there. I mean, like I said, if you're going to use a smartphone or a tablet or a computer, you should back your stuff up, right? Because hard drives fail. Hard drives are, I know this is kind of a crazy version of a hard drive, but they're basically the vast majority of stuff, even in the data centers, is still sitting on spinning disk, believe it or not, right?
Yep.
And
Back it up on your phone.
what?
What function would you go to back up your data on your phone? I've never backed anything up.
I can show you later.
iPhone, Android phone?
I'll show you.
iPhone, okay.
Are you gonna get into the specifics on application of what you're talking, of how to do it?
How to back up things on specific types of devices? Yeah, I didn't really prepare that. So,
Isn't some of it backed up automatically?
yes, some of it is. Like if you have an Android phone, you have to have some sort of Google account to log in when you first get the phone.
And
And
then
then-
an iPhone, I think, too, it
Yeah.
backs up stuff automatically.
It should.
That's what I thought, but
I'll show you how to check it.
it might be backing up, I have no idea.
Please speak up.
Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about specifics about how you back things up on an Android phone or on an iPhone, okay? Maybe we could set up a separate session and just to talk about that, how to make sure your stuff is backed up. I think, like I said, everything is getting pushed to the cloud, right? right? It's convenient. You don't have to have your own external hard drive to back things up. I do both, to be honest. I've got local hard drives in my house. But once I started using Google Photos, I didn't back up to the local hard drives as much, right? Because that stuff, they've got better hard drives than I ever will. Anyway. So is it safe? Primarily, yes, depending on what you mean by safe. So what's your biggest fear in using the cloud? What are you afraid of? What makes you, what's that?
Financial loss.
Financial loss, how? How would financial loss happen?
Reaching into accounts, personal information, passwords.
And then
Electronically withdrawing funds or
from your bank.
bank, or just,
So banks are getting very good at recognizing that. Credit cards and banks are getting much better now at both recognizing when something's funny is happening and also reimbursing you, right? Reimbursing you. Because a buddy of mine, he had like $40,000 stolen out of his bank account, and the bank
very good service. Yeah,
bank put it back for him. They realized that was
Well, now you can, get your thumbprint, so you don't have to put a password in, it recognizes your thumbprint
Yep.
with Chase Bank anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot safer.
Biometrics, yep, are always going to be safer.
Biometric?
Yeah, biometrics, anything that's unique to your physical body, right? Your iris, right? So me and my family, we have like global entry. It does fingerprints. I know some things scan your iris, which is unique to, that's all called biometrics, right? Metrics to measure, and biological, right? So yeah, biometrics are great. You wanna, I would make one suggestion. How many of you buy stuff online? Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people buy stuff online. No, you don't buy anything online? Nothing? Okay. What's that?
No smartphone either.
No smart, okay, all right.
Smart.
Okay.
You are smart.
It's the phone that's smart, not you. That's why. We become dumb because our phones are smarter. If you do shopping online, there's always going to be this little checkbox. Oh, you want to store your credit card information here for next time? Don't do it. 90% of it is okay, 90% of the sites, but you're always going to come across one thing, and it just happened to me because we were traveling overseas, and it was some discount airline. I'm like, yeah, okay, I just wanted to save some time. And sure enough, someone ordered some furniture off that credit card. I was like, so don't store your credit card information on the online, and make sure that these are well-known shopping sites, okay? Look at, do you know what a URL is? Yes. Right, look at the URL. Does it say Amazon.com? Yeah, HTTPS with a little lock thing. Make sure it...
New Google isn't showing all that.
What's that?
The new Google line isn't showing all of that.
Google...
I just read a thing talking about how Google's changing, and that I was showing all that stuff in the URL line.
No. You can still see, like, does it say Amazon.com?
Okay.
Right? Or is it...
Has something else weird.
Yeah, something else weird that says, my Russian shopping site.org, well, that's not Amazon, okay? They have to show their... Yes?
And watch out on that one, because some of them are really sneaky. It'll be Amazon.Russia will rip you off.com.
Yeah, right.
Amazon part, but it's the part that's just before the com that tells you.
The .com, yeah.
Because I've caught a few of those.
If it looks fishy, just close it and get out of there. Don't, err on the side of caution.
How do you feel about Gap and Macy's and them storing their own credit card number versus some...
Storing their own credit card number.
Like online ordering.
Well, it's your choice whether they store it, isn't
Do you
it?
consider that less safe or as safe or safer, or still would not even do it with the company for their own card number?
I guess it's more safe, but I just avoid it now.
Well,
Right?
Amazon, if you create an account with Amazon, then they have the
Yeah.
auto pay option.
Charges.
Yeah,
And you gotta put it in there,
Yeah.
then, okay.
right.
Is that,
Well, then Amazon's, if they're forcing you to do it, then Amazon has a responsibility. And and again, they're pretty good about, this was not ordered by me, right?
but it's so convenient.
Right.
To put it in there and then you bam, 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 and you got it.
I know.
And it's here tomorrow.
You got to balance convenience with
Your credit cards, what we've done, I mean, with the bank, so that hopefully they're not drained out, is we get an alert.
yes,
We've done the alert thing on our credit cards that way. Or the bank, you freeze stuff and you.
I've gotten calls from my credit card.
calls,
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the calls and then we used to go to Equifax and all those and freeze your account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing, speaking of Equifax and the other credit, what do you call them? The what? The credit bureaus, yeah. They have services that will monitor your identity, right? I had it free for a while because well, it wasn't Equifax. Didn't they screw up? One of them did, and so they offered it. Yeah, so they offered it for free for a while.
Oh, a year.
A year,
We
yeah.
had it done, not the Equifax, but something else a long time ago, and you get it for a year and you really monitor it.
Right. So, another good thing to do is monitor your credit rating, right? Do you guys know Credit Karma? CreditKarma.com is probably the best free credit, and you can see, does it say I made a late payment? Does it say, everything? It shows you exactly what's going on. You can go to Equifax, you can go to those. Credit Karma will cover all of the three, the three major bureaus or whatever.
Is Karma at the C or K?
A K. Okay, yeah, I think they're both
Delete your
Ks.
password, like you said, don't store them on there. So if you go in and delete, are they gone, or when you delete it, or is it there somewhere?
It should be gone. It should be gone, right? See this gets back to government's role in all this stuff. Are they forcing companies to get rid of? Do you have? So in Europe, I don't know if you guys have heard of GDPR. It's this whole regulatory thing in Europe. If you're a company, even in the US, if you've got a presence or customers in Europe, you have to comply with GDPR. One of the main personal ideas of GDPR regulations in Europe is the right to be forgotten. If you go to a company, a tech company, and say, I want you to remove every speck of information about me from all your computers, they have to comply in Europe. Here,
No.
not so much.
Yeah, I also ran into a situation where somebody asked me to remove a password, which I did. But I found out that there was a push-down stack in Windows 7. Where all the old passwords were. So
Right.
I had to take care of that push-down stack. And you know what I mean by a push-down, but there were a lot of passwords stored on there. People that had passwords stuck on there, and I didn't know what they were. I just got rid of them all. But it's like,
Well, yeah, no, same thing with Google Chrome. Google Chrome will, if you choose to, store password history and stuff, and you can look that up on your account, right? So in terms of passwords, so this is what I do with passwords. You should do one of two things. There are password managers, right? There are password managers, which are pieces of software which will store your password.
Is it LastPass is one of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Okay. Just look up. What's that?
Apple has one.
Yeah. So you can store your passwords securely that way. As a backup, I actually have my passwords in a text file. I know that sounds horrible. Okay, in a text file in Google Docs, but they're all sort of in code, right? So I speak Chinese and Thai, so I use the English spelling of Thai words to spell out my password. So, like right? So it's kind of like a code, and I taught my wife the code I use, and I gave her a physical sheet with, these are all our accounts, and here's the passwords. And so, you know, if I would suggest using a password manager if you want to. Otherwise, you know, the most important passwords, write them down and you know, lock them in a cabinet somewhere. I mean, what are the chances of someone breaking into your house, getting into that cabinet, pulling, you know what I mean? It's so, yeah, you don't want to forget your password. So it's okay to write them down, but just be, you know, don't have it pasted on your monitor. Right? These are my passwords. Yeah. So, and your passwords should be good password. Do you know what a good password is? What's a good password? What should it contain? Letters, numbers, capitals, and symbols. Yeah. A lot of sites force you to do that now. A lot of services. You should. I think you should change them every 3 to 6 months. If I know, that's why you get a password manager. What's that? More often, or you just don't want to do that? Never. And don't use the same password for everything. I know it's tempting. No.
The memories tends to go.
Well, that's why I put mine in a text file, and it's, you know, but it's in another language, transliterated into English. But
Ed, could you?
Yes.
Could you create a sample of that?
I'm not going to tell you my password.
No, I know. I know they're all password. I mean, but a sample of how you do that kind of a thing is. I mean, we would create our.
What else do I got here?
Create our own.
Oh, we already did this.
scheme,
Okay.
But
so let's see. What am I? Oh, this is the secondary monitor thing. That's a kind of a pain.
What was your are we going to go back to that page on safety tips?
Oh, we can. That we kind of covered it already, but. Right. The other thing is get an antivirus program on a computer. Right. If you have a computer at home, make sure you run an antivirus program.
Who do you like?
What's that?
Who do you like?
You know, I use AVG because it's free.
what is it?
AVG.
Yeah,
It's just 3 letters.
Free AVG, not the other one.
Yeah, right. Free AVG. And you get prompted quite often to upgrade, but I don't.
How about malware bytes? Do you like that?
I love malware bytes. Those are the 2 things I run is AVG and malware bytes because malware bytes covers things that are called malware that'll sneak in and pretend to be a valid program but mess around with your machine and, you know, at least kind of gunk it up, if not like steal your information.
I have a question. I don't use my desktop anymore,
Okay.
and that's where I have the AVG, because I use my iPad for everything.
Okay.
Is it necessary to update my AVG on that desktop? If I
You don't even use it?
I don't, just,
Well,
so what's the point, right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're not using it, is it like, did you sell it? No.
Yes, I could.
Yeah.
I just don't use it, it's just up in another room, and I have my iPad right in the kitchen, which is my go-to now.
Yeah, well, because that's, you're cloudy now,
Yeah.
right? You're using all these different services, you're not storing everything locally as much. You know, you got
Antivirus, is it A?
AVG, just those 3 letters.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
No, Kaspersky and all those other ones that are advertised.
No, they're good. Yeah, they're good. But the AVG is free. So, yeah, any antivirus, get antivirus, right? Yeah, and back your stuff up, right? Back it up to the cloud or back it up to a local hard drive, because hard drives will fail. You want to make sure you get it back. So, You've got iCloud, you've got Google Drive, right? How many people have used Google Drive? A couple people. Yeah, I use Google Drive all the time. Like, we travel overseas and I can pull up, you know, our tickets, our boarding pass, you know, whatever we did for the trip, I can pull it up on my phone. And we did that once. We got on a local domestic flight in Thailand, and they wanted our passports. I'm like, what? We're not traveling overseas, but they needed I had our passport pictures. I had photos of all our passports on my phone, and they accepted that. So, yeah. They probably shouldn't have, but but it's we're just flying within Thailand. We weren't going anywhere. So
as you back up, you can set the frequency of those backups?
it syncs, actually. It syncs constantly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's more and more common, is not a backup frequency, but just you set this folder to be backed up by Google Drive, and it starts backing it up because it's a new folder. But once it's there, it's just going to keep that folder and the online folder synced up, right? So any changes you make to this folder, it's going to go up automatically. So you don't have to set like the frequency or anything like that. And that's...
Can you retrieve files that have been lost?
Yeah.
Off the backup?
Yes.
Or the cloud or where?
Right, yeah. I think we got to get like a session on specific how to use these different ones. You know what I mean? That's probably the key thing I missed here, was going over. I mean, I could show you know, a couple things on my laptop here, but let me see what I got. Let's just go. Whoops.
Just don't bring up your text file.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna bring up where's this one? Is this not? Why isn't this going? There's a bunch of pictures from Asia. So yeah, this is, you know, these different folders are just synced with my Google Drive, and then and so Google Drive and Google Photos are kind of, they use a shared space, but you just, if you've got, I've got OneDrive on here, I use OneDrive and I use Google Drive.
Do you do all of your cloud stuff with one? Like, you're just using Google Drive?
Right now, I'm just using Google Drive. Because Microsoft has so much storage, I'm working on getting all family videos up there, which are huge, right? And that's kind of a pain in the butt. I haven't actually done that yet. I've got them on a hard drive locally backed up, right? But I'm gonna start doing that, because they give you like 10 terabytes of space. Or 5 terabytes. So first of all, there's bits, right? Bit is like the smallest amount of information, right? And then 8 bits is a byte, okay? So 8 ones and zeros is a byte. And then a kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. A megabyte is 1,000,000 or 1,000,000 bytes, right? 1,000,000 bytes, yeah. It's actually slightly more, but anyway, without getting into the math. A gigabyte is 1,000, you know, 1,000 megabytes. A terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. And a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. And it keeps going. But a petabyte is like so big that that's usually sufficient. Well, no. I mean, so the data our company backs up from all its customers is, we're in the hundreds of petabytes now. So, but that's from companies like Pfizer and whatever. Yes?
Yeah, just one comment as we've had this discussion for the last hour. It's really been about consumer use of the cloud with everyone in here.
Yes.
But my experience, and you can confirm this or I'll modify, is this kind of all started when businesses were using software like SAP. I don't know how many have heard of that, but it's an enterprise software that pretty much does everything for a company.
Right.
Finance, human resources.
All that, yep.
It used to be you had to have somebody come in and install the software in your company's computer room.
Right.
They came in and installed it, and when they wanted to update it, they had to come in.
Well, because you had a rack of these things in your office where you installed your software and maintained it and all that stuff.
Well, what really gave rise to the cloud first was businesses saying, no, we don't want to have to upgrade the software in our computer room every time, each company doing it individually.
Right.
But instead, SAP started offering a cloud-based offering, which meant that everybody got the upgrade at the same time, and everybody was using the most up-to-date software. And this is what Microsoft's doing with Office 365, correct, Dan?
Yeah, so
everybody's using different versions of Office, but if you want to always have the most up-to-date.
is there no internet? Oh, I should have brought my MiFi. So SaaS, capital S, then 2 small a's and another capital S. Software as a service, right? So one of the first big software as a service companies was Salesforce, right? To keep track of all your sales and everything. Instead of installing software on a local computer, you just went to a browser, logged into your account with Salesforce, and all your stuff was then in a browser, right? All browser based. The company I work for, Druva, is one of the first real SaaS-based backup companies, right? So yeah, we have an agent and everything, but there's not like a big complex. You don't need a backup server and all that stuff. We back up everything right to the cloud. So SaaS, software as a service, and it started with companies.
Yeah, the business case on that, of course, is that way you don't buy your copy of Microsoft Word and use it for 15 or 20 years, and they don't get any more money.
Right, yeah, that's...
Every month or every year.
Right. Yeah, that's...
Pay them that year.
It's a subscription. It's a subscription. It moved to a subscription model. You pay per user per year or per user per month, right? And it's a steady stream of income for the company, right? But you do get some benefits, right? You don't have to maintain the software. You don't have to maintain the hardware anymore, right? You update everything. Everyone gets the same update at the same time. So, but yes, yeah, subscription model of income is the big thing now, right?
I have a question. What operating system is typically used in cloud services? Do you know?
What do you mean?
Well, is it like Unix-based or something else?
Oh, man. Boy, that depends. There are, some of them have like their own operating systems, right? So, yeah, proprietary stuff. You can build, so I wish I could pull up Amazon, but show all their processes. You can build Windows machines, Linux machines, and pretty much anything you want on top of their cloud infrastructure, right? So it depends on the service. It depends on the service, but I'm sure Linux-based stuff is going to be way more popular under the covers than Windows services.
That's what Android is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Usually some flavor of Linux. So. Good stuff? Interesting? Yeah. Useful? Yeah. What's that?
Not at all.
Not useful at all?
Right over my head.
Did you enjoy the lunch?
And the company.
I didn't eat it.
Do you have like a smartphone? Okay, so.
A brother-in-law that helped. I mean, a son-in-law.
Your son-in-law. Yeah. Okay, so you got it covered. You don't need the cloud. You have your family that does it for you.
Grandkids. The
Grandkids.
grandkids. I was going to say, get
Whoop.
the teenagers. They know.
Yeah.
I had my 15-year-old grandson going through my phone. Take this off because they've got cookies on it. Take this off. And he was taking everything off my phone. I mean, wait a minute. What have you done?
It's easy to add too much stuff.
Yeah, so he was taking off stuff I don't use.
They're so good. The kids, my kids too, man. I mean, I'm Mr. Technology guy, but
They know.
because they just go on a device and they just start playing with it. They don't care if they make a mistake. They just start hitting things until it works.
Yeah, well, this kid.
You know, they figure it out quickly.
What was it? It was one of the weather maps things, and he's, you don't want this, whoop, pick it off. Okay, hi. But, it's good to sit down with them and.
Well, it helps you connect with family too, right? Which is the whole point, right? Of like social media and everything, you should be connecting with people anyway, right? So sometimes technology problems can help you connect with people you may not have connected before, or just help you connect with the people around you, right? So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no problem. I think we need follow-up sessions.
Yes, we'll keep in touch.
Okay, all right.
Feel free to send me questions that you have or what you would like to see as a result of this.